好早啊，大家咁啊，我哋先等一陣先，係啦，咁啊 ，we just wait a few minutes and see more people join. Also wait a bit for the speaker. 咁啊，係啦，我哋等多一陣啊，咁啊，等多幾分鐘咧，多啲朋友仔入嚟啦，咁啊，同埋我哋都要等一等個 speaker join 呢個 session。咁啊，同時可能Jessica 幫手去contact 一下 Jonathan 啦。好，咁等待嘅時間咧，不如睇下大家有冇啲咩，即係過去一個禮拜有冇啲咩進度想分享下，或者有冇啲咩困難，大家想 share 一下。即係雖然有啲朋友仔啲 individual 有揾我去傾下偈嘅，咁但係我唔知道其他人有冇啲咩特別嘅狀況咧。最近你可以 unmute 啦，或者你喺個 chat 度打出嚟都可以嘅。Hey, hi. Hi, Jonathan. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, that's good. So yeah, I'm Cyron. So thanks for joining us as guest speakers today. So yeah, actually, I remember like a few years ago, I joined the IIX, the Impact Investing course, as well. So
Right.
yeah, the work of IIX is really impressive. So I think it's just really a great chance for the participants today to learn more, like what is impact investing, and also like when the impact investors considering their portfolio, considering investing the case, what is the key elements, or what is the success factors for the teams. Because a bit information, today's all the audience, they are going to join our incubation program. They are going to submit their application proposal. But before it, they will have some training. So I believe everyone joining this session today, they should have a basic ideas what they want to do, or they have something they want to achieve. But before they submit the application, they will go through some training, and also that in the progress of working on that proposal. So I think it is really good to learn more what is impact investing. Also learn more from IIX's work. Yeah.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. So maybe I can start. Probably
Yeah.
I have
Sure.
a presentation ready. I'll just present that. Can you see my screen clearly?
Just still loading. Still setting up. It's good now.
Okay, great. So thank you all for inviting me for this event. So as I know, just want to maybe give a introduction about IIX before I go into the topic of impact investing. So IIX is basically the leader in impact investing in Asia. We were formed in the year 2009 by Professor Doreen Shahnaz, who worked in Wall Street and the development sector extensively. So since then, we started as an institute. I think that's where you joined. Basically, you joined our course probably because we initially impact investing is, as you know, it's very new in the markets. There is ability to access another source of capital through impact investing. So we started as institute, as I said. We now have grown into asset management company, investment banking unit, which I lead. So we have grown as an organization. So this is our presence to date. It's quite extensive. We've raised over $400 million in capital. We have our own asset book, which is about 250 million. We work with impact enterprises all over Asia, and now we are going into Africa as well. We have staff in most regions in Asia, in Indonesia, in Philippines, in Vietnam. We've recently set up office in Vietnam, India, all over now in Africa as well. So as you see, our presence is quite large. We are mainly in the case of we don't do acceleration or incubation, but we mainly do investment readiness services, which a lot of startups lack. So if you see, we got an entire suite of solutions from supporting seed stage companies to mature companies. So seed stage companies will be facilitated through my team, which we give investment banking support, and then growth stage through our growth fund, and then maturity companies through our women's livelihood bond. So if you see, we have a very entire suite of solutions as an organization. Um, so if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll be happy to put them up and answer anything. So you feel free to stop me anywhere. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So this is about our department, my department, which I run, which is called Impact Partners. We work with enterprises in channeling capital from impact investors to enterprises or come up and coming enterprises such as yourself. So you can sign up on our platform. Maybe this is something which we can discuss later. And you can access investors, impact investors who are normally not VCs, but more concessionary. But I would say they also expect a return, but they are more long-term patient capital investors, which is highly important for startups looking to raise capital, where you don't have to pay back and you don't have to look at X amount of growth or Y amount of growth. Um, so yeah, so I think we also have pioneered the Women's Livelihood Bond, which is the world's first gender lens instrument, which goes to companies who basically work with women and also who have women founders. So this is also a 250 million bond where we can directly invest into enterprises. Minimum check size depends on 1 to 15 million, so we can change it around as well. So I think, as I said, like each of the enterprises who come through us has a suite of funding solutions. Through our impact partners, with the team which I lead, we have a suite of foundations, family officers who are able to invest in enterprises, early stage and growth stage. Then we have our IX Growth Fund, which is also more like a bridge funding round, and then the Women's Livelihood Bond, which is for mature companies. So I think if you ask how IX did it, it was almost about doing good. Everybody thinks doing good is only about CSR, but we made sure that with a clear vision, with capital flowing not only who really need it, but to enterprises who actually are doing something to support their entire ecosystem. So I think I'll just start with what is impact investing. So impact investing, a lot of people think that impact investing is corporate social responsibility, which is not the case. Impact investing is actually a instrument or a class of asset which offers both return and impact. So whenever anybody or impact investor comes to a deal, they normally look at the financial angle, of course, but they also look at impact metrics. So impact metrics can be the number of lives you touch, the environmental impact you have, the social environmental impact you have. So it's important as a startup to quantify this. A lot of startups fail to quantify this from the start, how they make an impact. You don't need tools and measurement tools to do that. It's a very simple process. Like example, let's say you're a startup who's buying from artisanal, poor communities. You can easily say that okay, you're uplifting 20 families, or multiply that into 360 families. So those are some things impact funds look at, and impact investors also look at coming up with more catalytic instruments. When I say catalytic, it's not just standard equity instruments. They will come up with instruments which will reward impact. So that means they might offer impact linked bonds, which will offer reduced interest rates if you meet a certain impact target. The same way they might come it at a lower interest rate compared to, or more like a, if you look at debt funding, they might come at a higher debt rate, or more like a first loss guarantor to your round, allowing you to access more private sector capital. So one of the biggest issues for private sector VC investors is who's going to be the lead investor. So sometimes most impact investors, since they have the long term ability to invest, they come in as a lead investor. So this is another source of capital which you can tap into, which I know that globally VC funding rounds are narrowing down. Impact investing, I would say, is most funds, impact fund, globally asset management funds are now setting up a sustainability arm or impact investing arm, allowing you to tap into these sources of funds. So if you want to tap into these sources of funds, there is enough and more resources online. You can look there are typically who do impact investing are now, early it was angels only, but now it's more like foundations, endowments. Now even private equity funds and VC funds are also having their impact or sustainability arm. So I think one of the biggest aspects on impact investing, why I mentioned here, is impact investing needs a marketing strategies. Everybody is so engrossed on venture capital funding, but impact investing funding, not a lot of people are aware of impact investing. So that's why impact investing currently needs a lot of push, and a lot of people are not aware of impact investing. So in terms of impact investing, it's important, as I mentioned, to measure your impact and to report your impact, which is not, which most enterprises don't do that. So because they think it's a complex process. So something for you to think about if you're looking at an enterprise which you're starting, it's you have to look at the impact from grassroots level. And if you see the uh, total market size of the impact investment capital available in the market, it's $715 billion. So in terms of accessing that, it's there is more capital, more sources of capital which you can access. And on one of the other things is also investors currently still give a prominence to return over impact. So that's something also when you're looking at impact, not everybody thinks okay, you give impact and you can forego return. You have to always make sure that you give a decent return and your startup actually has ability to scale. So because if you see here, like there's also a lot of confrontation on greenwashing. There is also, if you see the US Parliament, US elections, this person on the right is competing. He's competing against ESG, so basically greenwashing. So it's always important to make sure you have real impact, not just something on the papers or digitally, so that you can actually measure it. And so yeah, so I think actual impact is very very important. And finally, your story as a startup. So as always, as a startup, the storytelling aspect is very very important when you're pitching to investors, how you're portraying your startup as an impactful startup. And most startups actually in their pitch deck don't have an impact star pitch deck or impact slide. So it's very very important as a startup to show how you're scaling your, while you're scaling your financial return, you should also be able to show how you scale your impact return as well. Yeah. So in terms of taking a journey with enterprises, so I'll just show you example, how we work with enterprise. So this was Kinara basically started is a MFI, which is a financial institution based out of India. They actually started only with $200,000 back in 2012. So now they have actually raised 11 million last year. This year they are raising 15 million. So everybody thinks, okay, just because you're impacting grassroots level people, the returns are not good, the impact is not good. You can't scale enterprise. So Kinar is actually a MFI which primarily works with women borrowers or on grassroots level underserved communities in India. So we actually went and funded them, and they've grown into a massive enterprise through the times. And the capital which they have actually access is only impact capital, not VC funding or any other sources. And even some of the returns which they are giving their investors now is almost 28% on IRR. So if you see, just because you're running an impact enterprise doesn't mean you have to do CSR or you should give subpar returns to your investors. You can give same amount of returns to your investors as well. So this is again, audience. This is again a very short description, but I'll expect more questions to come from the audience so that I can elaborate and run through the questions you have on impact capital better. So hope that works. Yeah. So I think just on the key stakeholders on the impact investing. So if you look at impact investing, the main center is impact entrepreneurs who's looking to scale either a social or environmental impact, right? And then there is development agents, like in countries there's USA, there is COICA, there is British government investment arm, who will normally be able to give you grants and come in as first loss guarantors. If you're funding around, they might be able to give you match funding sometimes. So I know that US government has a funding process where they give match funding. So what is match funding? So match funding is also a type of impact investing where they say, okay, if you raise 1 million in equity from your VCs or your from angels or from families or whoever, we will fund the balance. So that's where you can actually tap into these development agencies and USA, COICA, different agencies. Then there is, of course, compliance and regulators who measure impact. So you can also uh, reach out to these different impact measurement institutes. B Corp, IX also has IX values, who we measure impact as well. So you can reach out to us if you are looking at measuring your impact from a third party, which sometimes is required by investors as well. So of course, as I mentioned, there is impact investors. Then there is media also, which is a key part as well because they are the people who actually promote impact investing, and local government agents. So local governments are also now looking at impact investing as well. Who's looking, and then of course there is universities, colleges who have their grant funding, etc. Then of course incubators and accelerators such as yourself, like Maccabee Institute, who's looking into uh, building knowledge in the impact institute space. So, where is impact investing heading? So, if you see, impact investing is growing in terms of numbers. Uh, it's become a very, very lucrative space for startups to tap into capital. So, as I said, impact investing is the new black because if you see the amount of capital committed by investors each year has been increasing. So, if you look at VC funding, it has dried down, but impact investing funding, it has continuously increased. So, and they are also looking at more long-term funding. So, I think if you as a startup is struggling to get access from VC funding, impact capital is another source of capital which you can always look into. So, why organizations should embrace impact investing? As you know, we are going through a funding winter. So, and in terms of impact enterprises, they have a more vibrant ecosystem compared to the traditional tech focus who are looking only at the VC. So, if you are a V startup who has been only working with typical accelerators and typical VCs, if you're having an impact, you have a bigger ecosystem. So bigger ecosystem means you have more capital to tap into, you have governments to depend into, you have more activity players who are also like example IX. We have a program called IX TA program or IX X, where we actually provide investment banking services pro bono for four enterprises in each year. So currently we have a program with Government of Canada where we provide our investment banking services pro bono for impact startups in Vietnam. So like that, I think as an impact startup, you have more access to support compared to the traditional tech only or who's only looking at financial gains. So I think if you see in terms of impact, like a lot of startups are having impact, but they don't know how to portray it. And a lot of people think that just because you're making an impact, you're not having financial returns. But I think if you look at globally, the predictions into whoever, even World Bank or IMF or even funds, they are saying that the new adaptation is going to be climate adaptation, climate resilience. There's going to be in the climate space, climate tech while AI, all of that is important. End of the day, there has to be certain industries supporting in this climate sustainability space, which will be the next, I would say, as I said, new black, because there is more appetite and it's actually what the world needs currently. So I think in terms of IX, we have internship opportunities. We can connect you with investors. We can also connect you with ecosystem players as well, if you are looking to grow your organization. So yeah, so I'll stop here. I've restricted my presentation to 20 minutes. Hope that's okay, because I feel that it will be more better through the Q&A session to answer. That's how I normally operate. Yeah, happy to get any questions or thoughts.
Yep, it's good. See any question from the audience? Yeah, maybe I saw someone is typing. So, but maybe one question from me first. And yeah, thanks for the sharing first. And I think it's really interesting and impressive of IX work. When you guys seeing like different impacts and investor and their portfolio, do you see any trend like if the business is more tech related, is more easy to be invest, or any trend on like different countries, this kind of things?
Yeah. So at the moment, investors also have restrictions in terms of geographies. Investors at the moment prefer Southeast Asia, so countries like Indonesia, Philippines, uh, Cambodia, Vietnam. They would want to work in developing markets, not developed markets like Korea, Japan, etc. It might be highly tough to tap into a lot of impact capital because impact investors are mostly focused on developing markets, like as I said, who have a more underserved population. In terms of trends, impact investors are looking at, of course, bringing in the tech angle, but looking at more agriculture, renewable energy, uh, uh, as I said, climate adaptation, climate mitigation, more towards the climate side. They are looking at tech-based solutions plus general solutions as well, which is not tech-based as well. But I would say two priorities will be climate and agriculture. And also one of the other key spots also in both in Asia and in Africa is healthcare and education. Especially when it comes to healthcare, the impact investors are looking at how the healthcare solutions can actually tap into the underserved communities, not the high-end customers. The same with education as well. They are looking at how edtech solutions can serve poor communities, not the top tier communities, because there's enough and more solutions for people with money to buy, but then again, there is not a lot of solutions for people with less money to purchase. Hope I've
Okay, it's,
answered your question.
yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay, so any question from the audience? I saw someone unmute. Okay, you can type in the chat, or you just unmute yourself to ask your questions, because I saw a few, yeah, a few of you is typing in chat.
Please.
So while we are waiting for them to type the questions, maybe one more question from. Hey,
As you
see.
said, you are looking most likely in healthcare, IT, etc. Is there also a market for education?
Yes, as I mentioned, there is definitely a market for education. But as I said, for education, a lot of startups are actually working in the education space who's only catering to certain rich
I,
people, or I would say
okay.
people. If you're looking at education solution which is more applicable or affordable to everybody in the community, it will be good. So that's something which I have received feedback from a lot of investors. Plus, I spoke with the investor based out of US last year. They were mentioning they are looking at continuously at tech startups in who's able to say like provide solutions to everybody in the community, not just the top tier communities, more like affordable, very affordable solutions.
Okay, it's good. So I see another question from the audience is, would it be possible to email the organization later on to ask further questions? Also, if our focus is the visually impaired that fail to receive eye care or glasses due to affordability and accessibility, would this be counted as the healthcare market?
Yes, actually, we have worked with a company called ERC Eye Care, who's in India, who basically provides spectacles and lenses to at very affordable prices to poor communities. So I think so that's definitely an impact solution. You can definitely classify yourself as a accessing the healthcare market. It is definitely a healthcare solution.
But actually, because for the teams, I think they are in quite early stage. So
Yeah.
for them, like you mentioned about, like they need to measure the impact, and so they um, can have the financial return at the same time, can have the impact as well. So how they can better present what is the impact, or
So
how to
I
finance, yeah.
think you don't have to confuse a lot, because a lot of startups, why what I would say is, okay, they get tricked into the software, the solutions where they have to actually do a digital tool or digital assessment. Which, if you are having an idea, I don't think you should go that far. What you should do is, okay, let's say for instance, if you are looking at starting a startup which is in, let's say for this eye care, visually eye care solution, right? So you're saying, okay, you're gonna manufacture, or you're gonna buy from somewhere, from China or wherever, and sell it in the market at a cheap price. So there you go. Your margin is basically you buy it at X amount and you sell it at X amount. That is your margin. Reduce your cost. That's from a financial angle. But what's the impact angle is also quite simple. How many customers do you sell to? So that means, okay, you sold to 1,000 customers. 1,000 customers got access to affordable healthcare options. And you can also further break it down, saying, okay, out of the 1,000 customers, 20% of them are youth, 80% of them are women, showcasing that you have more deeper impact to uplifting women and youth. So you don't actually have to go to a deep dive exercise saying, okay, you're, X amount or whatever. So another thing is you can also say, okay, my let's say your glasses, the frame was made out of wood, not plastic. So it's biodegradable. So it's going to save the environment. So those kind of things you don't actually have to put numbers there, but these are some things high level from a social and environmental angle where you can have in your slide, which you can present the impact in a way which investors might prefer. So you're not so when it comes to impact, one thing to keep in mind is just because you're making an impact, it should not hamper your organization's growth. You should grow at the same space as any other startup, but it's just that you have a additionality. Let's say, for example, right? Let's take very from investor's point of view, where I come from. So let's take in fixed deposit instrument where you put in the bank, and the bank is giving me 5% return. Plus, they are also giving me 4% return if I yeah, and they say that they're going to plant trees for that 1% extra. But I, as an investor, would not still prefer that because still investors are getting to know this impact investing subject. So I think as a startup, it's very essential that you have to give a similar return to the market rate returns, but where you win the capital is because you are making an impact. So impact should not be a aspect where just because you're making an impact, it's going to hamper your other goals or priorities or anything of that sort. Your organization should be able to scale nevertheless of the impact. So impact is another, I would say, a brownie point for your organization to have.
Yeah, that's good. So actually, from your experience, like what is the like major concern or consideration from the investor, like when they are meeting the startup?
So I think okay. So few things which we focus is scalability of the startup. So scalability means scale ability to scale the startups even 5 years time. So one of the things as a startup which we look at is in terms of how your solution will be even valid in 5 years time. It's not just looking at the solution whether it will be valid today, but it more also how it becomes valid even 5 years time. Next is how your startup is generating recurrent cash flows. A lot of startups, when they say impact, they tend to generate their cash flows from grant funding. So grant funding is actually not a good thing if you're looking to raise capital. It's good to have that blanket, but if you're thoroughly depending on grant funding, it's not a good positive sign. So always look at how you can have recurrent cash flow onto the long term. Third aspect is also in terms of your team. Team is very important. How you make your team members, whether you have a good diversity in your team. A lot of impact also enterprises also look at having women-led leaders in your team. So not just for diversity purposes, but also making sure that they play active role, not just having a role model or just a figure, but they actually take part in decision making. Yeah, I think those are a few key aspects. I think and also in the impact side, I think looking at both social and environmental side, how those impact can be quantified as well will be very important as an investor.
Hmm. So can I think it's yeah, it's great consideration for the teams. So can you share like any example you see before is very successful startup, and they keep on raise the funding, and how the funding help them to grow?
Sure. So we actually work with a startup called iFarmer in Bangladesh. So iFarm is basically they basically procure fruits and vegetables from underserved farmers, and then they deliver it to wet markets. So they initially started as basically a B2C marketplace, right? But now they've mainly grown from a B2B marketplace. Uh, and they've also one of the things is it's all, as I said, it's all not always about the technology. It's all when you work with underserved communities, it's always important to look at how the farmers or how the people on the ground can access your solution. So iFarmer have now established iFarmer centers where the farmers can actually come and give the fruits and vegetables. From there, they can also buy fertilizer, seeds, etc. And they also have developed an app where through the sales of the farmers, they are able to create a credit score for the farmers, allowing them to channel financing from the banks and the financial institutions. So one of the biggest issues for these farmers is they are not bankable because their financial records are not kept anywhere. So as I said, iFarm started as a B2C seller, but now they've gone into multiple verticals. Sorry, excuse me. Hope I'm clear here.
Yep. Is it the finance team is quite familiar with the farmer stuff, or how they start?
Yes. So normally a lot of investors have dedicated staff for that. They would have people who are specialized in that. So like even funds, even VC funds, they would have a team specialized in education. They will have a team specialized in ag tech. They'll have specialized team in clean tech, healthcare. So all of that, they'll have a specialized team or specialized staff member who would have extensive experience working with these enterprises.
I see. So I saw is it Brian has questions?
Yes, hi. Thank you for the sharing. That's um very informative. Just one question, because further to Ricky's question on educational projects, I'm just wondering what kind of ROI are you seeing in the market that the investors are willing to invest? Are
Yeah.
they seeing like something like and in terms of ticket size, usually for educational projects, like what's the size of the investments that the investors are willing to make?
Sure. So
Thanks.
in yeah, so in terms of return, I would say I'll talk about two returns, right? So if you look at debt, if you know the US whenever the US interest rates increase, the global interest rates increase as well, right? So currently, in terms of debt instruments, you would look at IRR or a return of ROI of about between 9 to 11%. That will again vary with the startup and etc. If you look at equity, I would say they would look at somewhere around 20 to 25%. This is much more lower than what normally VCs look at. This is the return which they look at. If you look at ticket sizes, I think I can't put a ticket size saying okay for education ticket size enterprises. This is the investment because I've seen even billions of dollars going into education startups. So I think I wouldn't say, but for an early stage startup, I would say somewhere around 300K to 500K would be decent. Even somewhere around 100K. It depends on the economy as well, right? So if you're looking at a much more mature economy like Singapore, you 500K might not be enough for a tech startup. But if you look at a less mature economy like Vietnam, for 300K will be enough to for you to pilot a run. Same way, it depends on the market you're trying to tap into because the cost of funding, cost of expenses is different, labor cost is different. So all of that you have to take into account. So it depends on the country and also your scalability as well, right? So like if you're promising X amount of return as an investor, if you're putting in 1 million and if you're not going to make a return up to a certain point, that also matters. So I think few things matters in terms of the ticket size is also the startup's return, the startup's cash flow, which is impacted through the ticket size, and also where the startup operates is also very important, and what kind of expenses the startup is actually going to make. Those are some things which investors will normally decide when they are deciding on the ticket size.
Thank you. Can I just ask something as a follow up? I just curious, like, you just mentioned like the expenses that the investors would be carefully look into. I'm just curious, like, if for or startup that require a lot of human resources, say for an educational startup that requires many trainers, and would I'm just curious, would the investors consider this as financially favorable for them? Because I do realize some investors might treat them as like to have how do you say it? It's like there's no such IP or something that's very
Yeah.
tangible.
So exactly. So I think that's where you need like to figure out when you're looking at capital. A lot of startups actually fail to do that. What kind of capital do you want to tap into? So as I
Mm,
mentioned, there is always equity capital plus debt capital, right? So if you're
yeah,
looking at paying your teachers or tutors, right? Most probably it will be good to have a revolving credit facility for them, because if you're looking at raising equity and then paying your teachers, how are you going to expand your platform or your marketing expenses or whatever? So it's because your teachers, you're not going to pay them upfront, you're only going to pay them when they start tutoring, right? So if you have a line of credit from the bank or from a debt investor, you can use that funding to pay the teachers, etc. Because it's like you collect the money today and then you pay it at the end of the month. So you would have like a more like a credit revolving period there. So I think that's how you start to play with your financial instruments, etc. But if you're looking at equity and you're going to say, okay, you can pay your staff, but if you're looking to as the equity round to pay your teachers, I don't think that will be look good by investors.
yeah. Thanks for the answer. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian's questions. So I think it's really great conversation on, like, yeah, other audience can learn from it as well. So yeah, I saw someone is typing also, so we can wait a bit.
So I think while we wait, I think one of the important factors, apart from being impact investor, as I come from the investment banking space, is basically how you structure your capital round. Because a lot of startups say, okay, I'm gonna raise capital and I'm gonna spend X amount. So it's very essential to see what kind of capital investors will prefer. So and to tag that into that equity round, and then whatever investors don't prefer, you find another way to solve that. So that will be looked very positively by investors. If you're going to say, just like the person asked just short while ago, if you're going to raise capital and pay your tutors, that's not going to be look good, because how are you going to grow your platform? So that's something for you to look into.
Okay. But actually, do you see any, like, in general, or in average, like how many years then it's they should be look for which round of funding, or any this kind of statistic you see?
So I think ideally, as a startup, I think you should, if you're looking at a seed round, I think you should be looking at a forecast of at least 2 to 3 years. But if you're looking at raising Series A round, I would say at least a look at 5 years down the line, and always see how you could have runway for at least 2 years. Let's say if you're looking to raise now and for your seed round, see how you could at least survive from the seed round for a year or more, at least a year and a half. What a lot of startups do is, okay, they raise capital and they say, okay, I'm going to go for my Series A in 6 months time or 3 months time, which is not enough, right? Because you have just validated within your friends and family or your communities. A lot of people actually only look at their solution within the community only. You have to always look at beyond. So what one thing more, what startup investors also look at is how your product can scale beyond your community, beyond your country, because then you can actually offer your solution not only to your community or to your country but beyond, so that you have more applicability. So if you look at successful startups who has raised capital, I mean, let's say Apple, right? Why is Apple so successful? Because even they are tapping into the poorest of the poorest market in the world. So I think it's very essential to look at how your product or solutions can scale not only within your community, but always when you start the product, look at how can be replicated in different markets also. If you're only gonna, let's say you're developing a tech stack, right, based only on your community, the tech stack might not be applicable in a different market. If your investor go and ask that solution and you're going to expand it to, let's say, another market, you would have to completely redevelop and reboot your entire tech stack to cater to that market. So always make sure that your tech solution or whatever solution you are developing has some ability to be flexible, so that you can easily plug and play in different markets.
Yeah, that's good. So I saw one question from the audience. So you share about some cases on Asia or some global cases. So you also mentioned like many investor is more preference on some developing countries. So like for a developed country like in Hong Kong, I think also in Singapore. So like do you think it is difficult for this kind of project to scale up, like the project in Hong Kong or in Singapore or other developed country as well? And any successful cases you see, and what are the successful factors?
So I think Hong Kong, the smaller markets are always a good testing ground. But you always have to look beyond if you want to expand your product or services or expand capital. So I do understand Hong Kong is a small population, but if you're only looking at the Hong Kong market, it might not be feasible. So that's why I said my early discussion, always look at how your solution can actually tap into the larger global market, not only the Hong Kong market. So whenever you are developing the product, look at how you can tap into the global market, because your market internally is only 7 million, and out of 7 million, let's say 2 or 3 million is only going to be bankable clients or commercially viable clients. So always look at how you could actually tap into the global market when you have a market size. Of course, Hong Kong might be excellent market because you have the necessary rules, regulations, protocols, all of that to start the ecosystem and test the market. So it's always good to see how you can work in those markets, and then see how you can scale beyond. So even in Singapore, currently a lot of startups are setting up Singapore as a hub and catering into the region. Markets like Indonesia, Vietnam, who have more richer people. So example, there was a startup which came in Hong Kong who does sneakers out of plastics. So recyclable plastic. So they are actually catering to the US market. Hong Kong is not their market. So always look at beyond, not only to the internal market.
Yeah. So any other questions from the audience? If no, then I think thanks, Jonathan. I think it's a really great sharing today, and a lot of new information, of new insight for the teams to think about impact investing. And I believe some of them want to have some follow up with you as well. So yeah, thank you so much for your
So
time.
I think in terms of connections, I think you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And what I'll also do is I will also put the link of my platform, so that you can register when you have your startup ready, and you can my team will get back to you, and you can also start your chances of speaking with investors. So I'll send. Hold on, let me just copy paste the link here so that if you have the enterprise ready already, you can go directly here and sign up your enterprise and put your deck there. So if you don't have, when it's ready, you can put the details there.
Yeah, it will be great.
Yeah, I put the link in the chat.
Cool. Actually,
All
any
right.
criteria or yeah, any
So
requirement on putting their that on the platform?
at the moment, it's only restricted for impact enterprises who have at least some kind of social or environmental impact. But of course, there's no restriction. Even you are at idea stage, it can be put in here. But I would say more probability for you to raise capital will be for companies who have a more tractionable solution. But then again, that being said, there are some startups who have idea stage solution who can raise capital. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, it's good. I think teams can check the link, and if you guys are ready, you can upload your data and use the platform. So again, thanks so much, Jonathan, and today's time and share your insights and all things about impact investing. So yeah, thank you so much today.
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
day. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good day. And for the audience, then we'll move on to our tutorial sections. So as mentioned last time, every time we will have guest speakers and then to share on different topic, and also we will have an update for you guys. So 係啦，咁啊，我又變翻我嘅 bilingual 嘅 setting 先。OK，咁啊頭先講咗啲 impact investing 嘅東西啦，咁啊亦都每一次嘅 weekly tutorial 我哋希望就係有一啲 guest speaker 嘅 sharing，咁啊亦都update 下大家嘅狀況啦，即係睇有大家冇啲咩問題困難或者需要，咁啊係我哋可以幫到手嘅。咁啊頭先嗰個 topic 咧，我諗亦都 cover 到好多好重要亦都有趣嘅東西嘅。即係我哋做一個 impact investing 嘅 session 咧，即係喺呢一刻大家未必，我諗喺依家大家嘅 stage 係比較前期嘅。咁但係你認識咗呢樣嘢之後咧，你可以思考多啲好似頭先阿 Jonathan 講呢樣嘢就係。係香港係一個叫做細啲嘅 market 啦，咁但係永遠你要思考就係我依家做呢樣嘢點樣可以 expand 去其他地方咧？就可能同一個 solution 可能係香港用到嘅，咁但係係咪我可能將佢擺喺泰國，擺喺其他地方，咁啊都係可以 apply 到咧？咁變相我哋嘅限制就唔係淨係香港嘅 market 啦，反而有其他嘅地方係可以應用到。Yeah, so as Jonathan mentioned, I think a lot of things related to impact investing is quite important and interesting. But especially one thing he mentioned about is the Hong Kong's market may be a little bit small market, but if we want to scale up, then we always need to think about like how we can apply the same solution or same model to other countries like Thai or we can put it in other countries so that we can expand our business. So it's related to whether your business is scalable. So yeah, next time we invite a speaker to talk more about storytelling and pitching. So I think it is more related to your interview because we will have you can start to submit your funding applications from next month, November, and then in December we'll have the pitching session, the first interview. So I think it's good preparation for you guys. So for the next sessions, I think if you guys already prepare some pitch deck or you know how to present your ideas or you want to have some practice, I think it's good time for you to take the chance and try to pitch and then get some feedback from the speaker. 咁下一場嘅 tutorial 咧就係講 pitching 嘅。咁我自己覺得比較related to 大家嚟緊嘅 interview 啦。咁因為11月頭就係交個 proposal， 咁12月就係個 first in second in 嗰樣嘢啦。咁所以我會諗咧，如果大家下一次嘅 tutorial 嘅時候，有一個你可能做咗啲 pitch deck 啦，或者你 已經有想法啊，我點樣可以 present 我 idea 嘅，咁啊可以下一次即係趁呢個機會咧，又嘗試一下啦，即係可能你可以即嘗試下去講呢個 idea 出嚟，然後等個即係 guest speaker 亦都可以俾啲 feedback 大家。咁啊，好，我講咗好多啦，大家有冇啲東西想分享下，或者有冇啲咩疑惑困難喺你呢一個禮拜，即係又過去咗一個禮拜啦，有冇啲咩想問嘅，或者想求救嘅，係啦，咩嘢都得嘅，咁當然 related to 翻個 project 啦。So feel free to share any things any obstacle you discover or you encounter any problem, and yeah, see how we can give you guys some advice or help you guys to share the things. 我等待下有冇人講嘢先。好，謝謝你。
Hello，
喂 ，Hello。
係啦，咁我係 Ken 啦。咁上次咧，我 present 咧就想就有借一間 pop up 嘅 cafe 啦。咁在裏邊咧就有唔同嘅殘疾人士喺裏邊，即係展示佢嘅才能啦咁樣。但係我面對一個問題咧，就係其實我同佢哋嘅關係咧，就係一個合作嘅關係嘅，因為我係會俾笪場地佢哋咧，可能喺度佢哋可以即係可以例如可以喺度沖咖啡啊、按摩啊，或者係music performance 啊，或者係一啲嘅 drama 咁樣嘅。但係上次咧就有兩個問題，第一就係我其實我未肯定到咧喺呢個階段咧，究竟係有幾多嘅即係我會合作到或者係聘請到幾多嘅殘疾人士啊呢個階段。第二個問題就係我都再諗一個 advantage 就係即係點解係即係個 client 咧，我哋 client 係社會大眾啊嘛。即係咁就係點解佢哋要嚟即係幫襯我哋呢間 cafe 咧？咁當然我哋賦予嘅意義就係因為裏邊係有啲殘疾人士裏邊嘅元素喺度啦。咁但係咁樣夠唔夠咧？你覺得係咯？
我諗第一樣嘢咧就係啱嘅，即係頭先講即係嗰個對象，如果係社會大眾，即係任何人，我都想吸引佢過嚟呢個 pop 嘅 cafe 嘅，咁其實咧就相對困難嘅，因為每個人嘅 preference 都唔同嘛。即係如果我要做一樣嘢係 for 任何人，佢都會嚟參與嘅，咁啊變相相對困難嘅。咁所以我覺得首先第一步就係要收集翻先啦，即係有冇一啲好 specific 嘅對象，或者當你做呢件事嘅時候，我唔係 for 晒即係全部人嘅，即係我有一個 focus 嘅 target 嘅。例如我呢個 cafe 係想係專係 for 一啲嘅年青人嘅，咁啊佢過嚟呢個 pop cafe 去打卡、去飲嘢咁樣。咁 based on 呢一個人，即係我 for 年青人嘅呢個 cafe，咁我哋就要去思考究竟呢一班人一個咩嘅 cafe 佢哋就最想嚟啦，最需要啦。咁所以首先我會覺得呢個係要先收集咗先嘅。咁第二樣嘢咧就係你有冇想法就係呢個 pop cafe 係會喺邊度出現啊？即係一個咩嘅地方，或者你會唔會已經有認識一啲 cafe 係佢會喺嗰個提供到嘅地方俾你？
有嘅，就諗過，例如優 cafe 啦，即係我會同佢洽談一下啦。即係佢，即係嗰陣時我問過佢一個鐘頭咧，就係大概係千幾蚊咁樣啦。咁就有提供少少嘅輕食啦咁樣。咁就呢個其中一個會租嘅地方啦。咁與此同時咧，優 cafe 就喺港島嗰邊。
coffee shop 嚟㗎。
coffee shop 嚟嘅已經係一間。
OK， 係跟住咧，
因為頭先你問我係喺邊度啊嘛，同埋有冇洽談嗰啲。第二就係除咗頭先講到嗰度咧，我都有洽談嗰啲啲九龍啊，即係譬如而家太子深水埗嗰邊都好多文青嘅 cafe 啊，咁嗰度佢哋都即係旺角啊，咁佢哋嗰度都表示都會有啲興趣嘅。咁但係係咯，都要再傾咁樣咯。即係地點係港島啊、九龍嗰個暫時係咁樣咯。
但係個模式嗰個合作係講緊，咁佢原本有間 coffee shop 啦，咁然後佢哋嗰日咧就即係可能某個時間，佢哋啲咖啡師咧就會離開㗎啦，咁啊，然後你再揾一啲嘅即係視障朋友去喺嗰度就做嗰個駐場咖啡師啦，係咪咁樣發生啊？會
我嗌啲係想咁樣發生嘅，但係咧我亦都就呢個問題咧，開多個 boss 傾一傾，就係咧遇到一個，如果我哋唔係用埋佢哋駐場嘅咖啡師，即係本身嗰間咖啡嘅咖啡師，或者係佢哋提供嘅嘢食嘅話咧，咁即係當事人咧，即係嗰間咖啡嘅老闆，可能佢會唔知會即係可能會諗，我哋如果提供嘢食或者提供飲品，會唔會對於佢哋嚟講一個liability啫？
明白，亦都係係啊，非常好，呢個就係即係coffee shop 可能會有嘅考慮嚟嘅。咁
所以 that's why 就係that's why 就係點解我話如果我用晒佢哋嘅員工，用晒佢哋即係地方一定用佢哋嘅啦，但問題用埋佢哋嘅前台啊，或者係煮食嘅服務嘅時候，咁即係剩翻落嚟，我哋殘疾人士嗰邊可以做嘅嘢又少咗咯。所以呢個就要睇下點樣可以平衡到，因為當時Sharon你都，我記得好似係你問我，即係我 present 完之後好似係你問我就係話，究竟可以請到幾多人？呢個就係一路平衡緊嘅嘢，就係傾緊啦。即係頭先個 case 就係話，如果係幫佢保證佢哋嘅即係 cafe 嘅嘢食物啊、服務嘅質素嘅話，即係唔想做一個 liability 咁樣嘅話咧，咁另一邊廂，我嘅 user 即係服務嗰邊，佢哋可以提供嘢，譬如咖啡啊或者係嘢食啊，咁即係呢度又少咗兩個 item 少咯喎，咁樣咯。所以我而家就計緊數，即係你都問我究竟我可以幫到或者請到幾多嘅殘疾人士咁樣。咁如果我話2-3個，咁又會唔會太少咧？咁如果10個又會唔會叫做 OK 咧？即係我唔知道點樣拿捏係咯。
好，我諗首先第一樣嘢先啦。我頭先你提過，即係佢哋可以參與嘅位置嚟沖咖啡啦，一啲按摩服務啦，或者一啲表演嘅東西啦。咁呢幾樣嘢咧，我覺得先要第一樣嘢要思考咧，就係會唔會先揀咗其中一樣先？係啦，呢個係可能要諗嘅位置嚟嘅。因為如果你牽涉得範疇越多咧，其實你會好困難去諗你嘅，即係你要考慮嘅嘢會多咗好多啊！即係變相你下一步究竟我又要有呢一啲人，有另一啲人，咁我各樣嘢嘅服務咧，要即係起碼當 logistics 上面嘅考慮咧，已經係會多咗好多陣啦。咁所以我會建議係先會唔會focus 就係一啲沖咖啡嘅朋友仔，定係專係一啲做表演嘅，咁可能個合作又會容易啲喎。即係例如可能我哋揾 coffee shop 合作，但係依家我 mainly 提供或者個合作嘅模式咧，就係佢哋沖咖啡，然後我哋提供到一個表演嘅 service 去一齊去夾嘅，咁啊變相大家衝突又會少啲啦。咁呢個第一樣嘢啦。第二樣嘢咧就係我自己都即係我一路聽啦，我都有思考，例如佢哋嚟完呢個 pop up 嘅 cafe 去提供服務啦。咁對於佢嚟講，佢嘅下一步係啲咩咧？即係想啲人自己去揾呢個朋友仔去，例如繼續揾佢表演啦，定係其實呢一個 pop up cafe 咧就係叫做 long term 地，即係長期我哋提供工作機會俾呢一班視障朋友㗎啦。係邊一樣咧？
理想地咧，其實我係希望即係喺個 pub cafe 裏邊咧，佢哋係會有更多人睇到佢哋嘅能力咧，從而即係如果係攞 music performance 嚟講咧，咁可能會揾佢哋做私人老師啊，又或者係當中嘅 client，我即係有好多種，我就即係頭先你就建議過話學習範圍啦，不過呢個再思考啦。咁嗱，咁當中嘅 client 咧，即係可能會揾佢做老師啊，又或者係當中會揾佢，我唔知會唔會有人揾佢又去表演啊，即係呢啲嘅可能性咯。
OK，咁我覺得呢個就要喺你嗰個成個 business model 要更加清晰啦。係啦，第一樣嘢就係你試下會唔會收窄啲啦，即係當你係咪要有咁多種唔同種類嘅東西啦，即係唔同種類嘅服務啦，或者起碼喺你好前期嘅嘗試嘅時候，例如你而家揾一啲 cafe 去合作啦，我當你做頭嗰幾次嘅 trial， 即係一個試驗嘅計劃嘅時候，盡量唔好掂一啲會有好大嘅 conflict 先。即係舉個例子，我哋揾 coffee shop，如果你都係想擺一啲視像朋友嘅咖啡師落去，咁啊就擺到明，就真係會同間 cafe 嘅本身業務係有衝突啦。咁因為佢本身有咖啡師嘛，咁但係我哋會唔會係嘗試嘅時候，淨係去掂一啲唔會太大 conflict 嘅地方咧？即係例如按摩嘅 service 啊，或者啲表演嘅 service 啊咁樣啦。咁呢個第一樣嘢啦。第二樣嘢咧就係如果咁聽咧，ideal situation 係想，例如去提供完一個表演，然後咧嚟到嘅參加者係會之後可能揾佢上堂啦，或者揾去其他地方表演咧。咁呢個可能喺我哋去諗成件事嘅時候咧，係一個幾重要，我哋要擺多啲功夫嘅位置，係啦。即係舉個例子，如果我係做一個音樂表演嘅。我係想嗰啲 audience，嗰啲參加者，即係嚟呢個 pop cafe 嘅人，係會跟住揾佢上堂嘅。咁即係講緊，我期望呢一班人嚟嘅人咧，其實佢係本身對音樂有興趣啦。咁呢個咧，就可能就幫到你收窄。我一開頭話我社會大眾，我唔知道 for 咩人嘅時候，會好困難喎。咁但係如果我最後其實係想佢哋係嚟上堂嘅，即係學音樂嘅，咁可能我哋就可以揾翻一啲對應啲嘅人啦。
明白。
咁係啦，咁呢個係需要落多啲功夫嘅。咁呢個亦都係我諗我上一次 boot camp 嘅時候咧，未係好聽到好清晰，就係我下一步嗰個會發生啲咩事。而 which is 我哋如果個下一步咧，就係想啲人去揾佢學嗰個佢提供嘅 service 嘅，咁我哋就清晰啲知道，我最後究竟即係最簡單，我點樣去 evaluate 呢件事成唔成功咧？咁可能我就去睇下，喂，有幾多人真係參加完呢個 pub cafe，真係會揾佢哋上堂啦。
咁嗱，譬如咧，頭先聽你講咧，就譬如 music performance 啦，咁就唔會同嗰間 cafe 本身嘅業務衝突啦，或者係啦。咁譬如咧，譬如 music performance，咁譬如我而家我做唔止一次噶嘛，咁我可能做10幾次咁樣。但係如果我寫 proposal 嘅時候咧，我除咗寫 music performance 之外咧，我仲有2樣嘢想試嘅，就係一個導賞同埋呢個無眼畫畫嘅。咁咧，即係個 music，即係嗰個我賣嘅服務，因為而家頭先講到有3樣嘢咧，我就淨係講 music performance，導賞同埋無眼畫畫呢3樣嘢。嗱，咁講緊係三樣嘢啦。咁如果我係寫 proposal 嘅時候，我係咪即係當我三種服務？因為我學你話齋，我諗緊我每一次都提供呢3個服務好啊，定係我有即係可能4個 session 做 music performance， 4個 session 做導賞，4個 session 做無眼畫畫。即係你嘅意見覺得我應該點咧？一次過做晒啊，定係分幾次做咧？
首先我會建議係嗰3樣嘢咧，盡量你要揾嘅 partner 咧，應該唔係即係唔應該係好大分別嘅。即係舉個例子，你有幾樣嘢想做， 咁先要考慮就係呢幾樣嘢係咪都可以同 coffee shop 夾到。如果夾唔到的話咧，我唔建議喺將佢哋夾硬塞落去嘅，係啦，因為如果唔係咧，佢又似係一個另一個 project 啦，同埋當你真係實踐嘅時候咧，其實會幾吃力嘅。咁所以你可以有幾樣嘢你都想去嘗試，咁但係嗰個合作嘅伙伴，即係例如嗰場地，當係我假設依家先係 coffee shop 啦，即係你主力係同咖啡店去合作嘅時候咧，你就要諗嗰3樣嘢究竟夾唔夾到落 coffee shop 嗰度。如果夾唔到的話，我會建議掹走佢嘅，即係唔好夾硬塞落去，係啦。如果唔係，唔好諗呢個分唔分定住先啦。即係呢件事 suppose 係一個長遠係可以 self-sustain 嘅 business 嚟㗎嘛。咁如果你牽涉 stakeholders 越多，即係呢家一時又要同 coffee shop 夾，當你做導賞嘅時候，其實導賞係應該同學校去合作嘅。然後當我畫畫嗰部分，原來我係應該要同呢個畫廊合作嘅。即係如果呢幾樣嘢咧係湊唔埋一齊，喺一個空間裏邊都發生到咧，咁似乎佢哋就唔應該夾硬擺埋一齊啦。係啦，咁有另一個仔都舉咗手喎，阿 Brian 係嘛
？Hello，首先 thanks for organizing 呢個tutorial， 因為我覺得頭先Jonathan 嘅 feedback 又好 useful 啦，咁我聽到啲好幫到手。咁我就係想問下，因為其實其實我而家係同我 partner 啦 Ricky 啦，咁其實我哋 work on 緊一個 educational 嘅 project 啦，咁就係之前喺嗰個bootcamp 度都講過，咁就係會係一個即係偏向 project-based learning 嘅一個 program。咁而家其實我哋已經開始揼緊個 business proposal 㗎啦，咁樣。咁所以頭先你見到好多問題，就係因為我哋揼緊啲 financials 嘅時候，就覺得如果我哋擺太多錢喺 training 度會有問題啊，咁樣。咁另外一個問題就係我想問下，因為我哋而家面臨一個問題就係好多時候我哋去同一啲校長傾偈嘅時候，佢哋都會話咁你哋嗰個 base 係乜嘢？即係你哋係已經做咗好多 groundwork， 同好多 underprivileged 嘅學生去做 interview 定係點樣樣？咁所以我哋而家有個難處就係我哋唔係好揾到一個班，或者意思其實我覺得我哋嗰個 sample size 唔需要話超大，但係如果可以揾到一級或者至少一個班，或者意思一咪就幾位學生去做一啲比較深度嘅 interview， 咁之後可能係一個比較至少100人到，我哋想派一啲 questionnaire 咁樣，咁都想問下會有啲咩方法入手好少少？因為如果唔係嘅話，好似所有嘢都係 on paper， 咁我哋冇做到啲 groundwork， 好似我哋傾偈，我哋開始 reach out 嘅時候有啲難度咯，喺呢一方面。
我想問你嗰個 interview 係想做啲乜嘢啊？
其實我哋想分做2 part 嘅，一 part 就想做 questionnaire 啦，咁大概可能派俾1級 Form 3或者 Form 4，真係嚟自一啲可能 lower banding school 嘅同學仔咁樣，想了解下佢哋對於學習上嘅困難係乜嘢啦，佢哋會覺得自己有啲咩潛能，或者如果有啲意思佢哋對於社會上有啲咩興趣咁樣，因為其實我哋而家 project 係講緊一個community focus 嘅 project-based learning 啊嘛，咁所以都會想了解下學生嗰個佢哋自己嘅需要，因為其實都成日大家都講緊佢哋啲 target group 有啲咩 needs 咁樣，咁所以好想了解下啦。咁對於你話深度少少，可能就真係想揾1 2位，真係可能佢哋如果可以嘅話，就真係進行一個深度少少嘅訪談，真係了解下可能佢哋係咪覺得傳統嘅學習模式令到佢哋受影響到佢哋嘅學習啊？係咪佢哋因為 lack of resources， 所以冇機會去探索其他嘅學習可能性咁樣咯？
明白。OK， 咁但係 for 你去 pitch 學校嗰個用途係，即係我記得我頭先聽一開頭你話同啲校長傾，然後校長問你有啲咩 reference 咁樣話係嘛？
係啊，意思係如果你話 paper 嘅話，咁我哋當然我哋都有做我哋功課，我哋見到意思有啲 research 啊咁樣，咁但係我哋都會想可能 first hand 咁樣可能去 派啲 questionnaire，睇下收集下意見咁樣。意思係或者喺你嘅角度，你會 advise 我哋採用一個咩嘅方式去做一個意思係我哋而家有少少後邊就成咗型，但係前邊嗰個位就可能要俾多啲 justification 落去。
明白。首先第一個位置要小心留意咧，就係上一次boot camp 咧，我都想提醒㗎啦。咁但係時間唔係太足夠。就係因為我見你哋就 target 呢個 Band 3嘅學校啦，咁但係又有提過一啲 underserved 嘅同學啦。咁 which is 咧兩樣嘢咧係唔掛鈎嘅。即係舉個例子，Band 3嘅同學仔係唔一定 underserved 嘅。咁呢個要小心啲啦，係啦，即係低 banding 嘅同學，佢就唔一定係等同於窮困嘅學生啦。咁所以呢個唔能夠 equal to 嘅。
明白。其實我哋有諗過一個問題，就係點樣 define 我哋 target group 嘅咁樣。咁之所以我哋 target 喺，意思係我哋都唔係叫 band 3，可能叫 lower banding schools 啊。意思係比較意思係比較多少少比較集中，因為我哋都諗緊點樣畫條線，究竟係可能全級可能係多達幾多 percent 嘅同學仔係可能有 SEN 或者有可能需要攞一定嘅 financial support， 或者意思係我哋仲定緊條線喺度。因為我哋覺得 underprivileged 可能係一條好大嘅 group， 意思係可能包括 SEN， 可能包括financially 佢哋 underprivileged 可能係有身體上佢有啲有啲缺陷咁樣，意思係我哋覺得呢個我哋想幫到嘅 group 係比較大嘅，咁所以我哋暫時仲揾緊條線去畫咯。
明白。係啦 ，that's why 就係我要提醒嘅位置就係因為你條線點樣畫咧？其實佢哋個 needs 會好唔同啊。即係舉個例子，你頭先有講過 SEN 嘅同學仔 ，SEN 嘅同學仔同埋所謂 underprivileged 嘅學生咧個需要又唔同。咁所以呢個要清晰啲知道嘅，因為依家你哋個 plan 咧。我自己覺得有少棘嘅位置咧，就係好似係頭先咁講，你哋好知道後面你要做啲乜嘢，但係前面嘅唔係好清晰啦，即係前面嗰班學生嘅嗰條線啊，或者 background 嗰樣嘅嘢，而咁樣會衍生個問題就係啲咩咧？就係好似依家就係我後面我一定係做呢樣嘢㗎啦，然後我就 fit 翻落去前面嗰堆同學，咁變相前面點樣 fit 落去咧？唔係一定話唔得嘅，即係你先後面我一定係做呢個 project-based learning 嘅 training， 咁但係你前面揾邊間同學仔咧就要好清晰啦。即係舉個例子，如果你係 for 一 underprivileged 嘅學生，我會想像就係佢哋個資源不足啦，咁所以變相佢哋 exposure 唔夠啦，或者本身佢哋屋企嘅環境係比較 prefer。我哋專心讀好啲書啦，咁啊 rather than 去玩其他嘅嘢，咁變相你個 solution 咧就應該係去俾一啲佢平時接觸唔到嘅東西啦，或者佢唔會走去掂嘅嘢啦。咁但係如果你話俾我聽，你嘅對象係low banding 嘅學生，或者 SEN 啦，咁 SEN 學生佢個需要就可能係嗰個學習嘅方式唔同㗎咯喎。即係可能我學中文，佢唔能夠用一般嘅方法去學習嘅，佢要一個相對 interactive 啲去學習啦。咁啊學啲乜嘢咧？咁所以要準確啲咯。即係呢個位置，我自己感覺上次 boot camp 或者頭先聽你咁講咧，就係嗰個對象好跳啊，即係 low banding 或者underprivileged。SEN 嘅同學仔，咁呢度已經係3 group 好唔同嘅人啦。
如果我哋淨係瞄住學校咧，意思係如果淨係 target lower banding schools， 意思係 instead of 去界定佢係邊一類嘅同學仔，因為我去界定邊一類嘅同學仔太困難啦。意思係可能一級，因為我哋呢個 program 可能係 serve 一級嘅，咁你一級入邊有唔同嘅可能需要嘅受眾，咁但係其實老實講，我哋而家 reach up。嘅，因為我哋而家個 business plan 會係 60% 嘅 time， 我哋會喺 serve 啲lower banding school，咁 40% 就會係 serve 其他嘅。 咁如果對於啲 lower banding school，我哋就會有個 discounted price。咁對於啲其他學校就可能收翻正常價咁樣。咁所以其實 instead of 我諗緊啊，係即係 instead of 去糾結究竟邊個，即係嗰一級入邊有邊啲學生佢哋最具體嘅需要係咩？會唔會我哋就咁話係啲 lower banding school 嘅學生，咁可能佢哋可能真係意思就咁 target 喺呢一度，意思 stop 咗喺呢一度就會減少咗個問題。
你可以 target 一啲 lower banding school 嘅，咁另一位置要思考嘅就係 low banding， 即係 low banding 嘅學校的話咧，咁你就應該唔係做緊扶貧嘅東西啦，咁就 mainly 係呢個 under 即係 social inclusion 一部分嘅，咁你就要諗其實 low banding 嘅學校同 social inclusion 係有啲咩關係咯？係啦。咁因為 low banding 唔一定係 poverty 嘛，係唔掛鈎嘛，咁所以佢唔一定有一個貧窮嘅狀況嘅，即係你未必係做緊扶貧呢個東西。咁我相信咁樣聽咧就比較接近，就係啲 social inclusion 嘅嘢。咁
所以我哋
low banding 學校
sorry 唔好意思，你講咗先，唔好意思。
係啦，你講。
唔係，所以我哋而家就係處一個位，就係我哋好想真真正正做啲 groundwork 係。可能真係派啲 questionnaire 啊，定係點樣樣咁，所以就係想，即係唔知道其他 group 或者Maccabee 呢邊會唔會有機會，可能係同一啲老師或者學校比較熟悉或者有 connection 喺度，而且我哋唔需要好多，可能係，而且我哋個 questionnaire 都係設計得好短，而且都係可能5至6條，都係啲 multiple choice 嘅問題咁樣。咁想透過 online 形式發放咁樣，咁真係想了解下究竟喺學生嘅角度，佢哋點睇呢件事咯？
咁我會建議我哋可以即係我要 refer 個即係中學老師咁樣同你傾下嘅。咁但係係啦，我自己覺得就你揾下啲即係 low banding 嘅學校嘅老師去傾偈 rather than 去掟啲 questionnaire 出去咯。咁我自己覺得會多啲 insight 多啲嘅，因為掟個 questionnaire 出去咧，一嚟其實同學仔佢其實好大機會係唔會填㗎，因為冇 incentive 嘛。即係最簡單，你諗下，如果佢返學都冇乜 incentive 啦，即係佢都唔係好中意啲文字嘅嘢啦，你再掟份 form 俾佢，其實佢更加諗唔到，咁點解我要幫你填啊？咁所以揾老師傾偈，我自己會覺得係比較 effective 啲嘅，或者多啲資訊俾到你嘅。
好，因為我哋自己本身就已經揾咗一堆中學老師傾緊偈，但係只不過我哋喺可能同其他有時有啲 outreach 嘅時候就覺得，好似好多人都 care 究竟學生點諗，學生點諗，咁所以我哋會有呢一個諗法啫。
咁你如果依家都同啲老師傾偈，咁佢哋唔肯幫你去掟個 questionnaire 出去啊，定係點樣啊？
唔係啊，意思係佢哋會，意思係如果佢哋開始想做嘅話，佢哋就真係可能想直接問好個科主任，直情問校長，直情推，因為有啲學校直情都，意思其實佢哋好 willing to 推嘅咁樣，咁只不過我哋唔想話喺嗰間學校做完問卷就即刻，不過其實都 make sense。如果喺嗰間學校做完問卷之後，就喺嗰間學校做 pilot program，呢個我哋再諗緊，我哋再諗下。
係咯，唔係我 refer 個一兩個老師俾你啦，即係 so call 一啲叫做 banding 低啲嘅學校嘅老師，咁你可以了解下佢哋學生嘅需要係點樣啦。咁呢個係啦，可以嘗試下。不過都係我要即係我諗 for 你跟住可能交 proposal 嘅時候都要將件事要係啦定義得準確啲咯。即係low banding 嘅學生係啊，即係而家我亦都喺度思考咁 band 我當 band 3啦 ，band 3同學仔佢學習動機，即係舉個例子，即係學習動機低，我諗呢個可能大家都 common 會有一個咁樣嘅 perception 嘅。咁同扶貧同 social inclusion 嗰個聯繫係啲咩咧？咁嗰個其實要解決嗰個問題係咯，即係呢個似一個唔教育制度嘅問題 rather than 一個 social issue 咯。咁所以呢個係 要思考清楚。
明白。好，唔該。
係啦，咁不過你 WhatsApp 我喎，你提我要我俾個 contact 你喎，因為
好啊，
我會唔記得㗎。
好，唔該晒，Sir。
好，有冇
Thank
其他
you
朋友仔有疑惑、有需要？咁我都約咗有啲 team 係可能下個禮拜係有 meeting 去傾下佢個 project 嘅。咁睇下大家仲有冇其他嘅問題？係啦，同埋我都見有啲朋友仔都有繼續update 緊個 weekly 嘅 update 咁啊，非常之好。咁我有時候都會望嘅，即係大家有冇啲 comment 係處理緊嘅情況或者 comment 嘅問題。咁都係嗰句，即係我自己覺得呢個比較重要，你自己可以睇得翻你自己嘅 update 咯。好，仲有冇？如果冇的話咧，咁係啦，今日時間就差唔多啦。我見大家都有，即係大家個 account 都係有個 application number，咁就非常之好啦。有一個朋友仔冇嘅，咁啊，如果你可以改得翻自己個名，寫翻個 application number 就好啦。咁啊，如果唔係咧，你冇填個 application number 喺呢個名嗰度咧，我哋係 take 唔到 attendance 嘅。So just a reminder, actually I saw most of you guys change your name and add your application number in your account already, but I saw some of you still not yet. So just a reminder, you have to change your name and add your application number so we can take the attendance record. So if there is no any other questions, so I think that's all for today. So if you have other questions, I think you want to ask, just stay or WhatsApp me or email us, then we can help. And yeah, so then that's all for today's sessions, and see you guys next week. 好，如果冇其他問題咧，咁啊今日時間差唔多啦，咁啊仲想問嘢嘅可以 stay，如果唔係咧就可以先行離開啦，或者之後稍後 WhatsApp 或者 email 我哋都可以。咁係啦，謝謝大家。拜拜。拜拜。